First I have to introduce the band, so please don't leave until after they finish and we play the record. Right now it's my great pleasure to introduce
artists and producers and helpers who made this possible.
My name is Simon Carter. I'm the technical director on Fable 2, and I was the lead programmer on Fable 1, so it's kind of a continuity thing there. This week I've been trying to work out why building the lighting for Fable currently takes 54 days, because obviously if we actually kick off the lighting build process for the game now, it might be finished by Christmas, and we'd like to bring that back a bit to about half a day if possible. Definitely not, no. I think there's obviously always the pressure to push on the press of a game like Fable, because we do try to get as many features out there as soon as possible. And I think Peter's doing an excellent job of trying to get as much attention as the game needs at the moment. And it's very useful actually hearing the feedback of what people think, because we do use this kind of feedback to get feedback on what the features we're putting in are. Dean and I met at a very early age, obviously. About 3 months into my fertilisation period, I think we met, and Dean was being an arse. But obviously, since we're related, yeah, very early age we met. Not just the cleverest people in the game, they're the cleverest people in the world, obviously, and the most sexually potent, I hear. Obviously, beardies and baldies will be the most clever and useful people in the game.
Do the slides together.
What, together?
Yeah.
What, sort of simultaneously? Let's try that.
Let's try that.
Right, okay. And then...
Did you have any peanuts?
I don't like peanuts.
I had some crisps or something.
I don't
anyway,
like
it's not important.
I had chili peanuts and went to the toilet. We could just do that for like an hour.
Okay. Yeah, so after the pub we went back to Peter's place. Play some games.
And then we played some games. And then you said...
Anyway, that's not important.
We've all played role-playing games for countless years. We've played them in castles, we've played them in towns, we've played them in villages, we've played them in dungeons. Well, it's about time I own those places. So everything you see in Fable, every building, every castle, every dungeon, you can own. You can buy, you can run it, you can own it.
My name's Ian Lovett. I'm the technical art director for Fable 2, and that means that I'm in charge of making sure that the work the artists produce looks as good as it possibly can in game, which has got a lot of sort of technical ramifications to it. Well, this week actually has been quite an interesting one for a small group of us. We've some of the team went out up to London to learn a program called ZBrush, so we've been having some tuition in that. And then the rest of the week I'm going to be concentrating on making sure, as I said before, exactly why some of our assets don't look as good as they could do in game. So we're going to sort of drill down into that and see if we can sort out those problems. They love me. Completely. Fucker. Dean is definitely the black sheep of the family. I'd ask him that question if I was you.
There's 20 other people as well.
It's not cables.
Oh really?
It's a big rat.
It's a big rat. It's a big...
Is it?
That's cool.
That's why it bounces up and down.
It's a hydraulic.
Oh, no, it's not.
Are we doing this here?
No. You need to
Yeah, I get it.
No, it's not.
Oh, there. Dance swing.
Oh look! I've never seen two buttons on it. I'll go and get somebody.
Yeah, go and get Neil.
I will defer to you guys on this. I'm just telling you what I think.
Why are we coming back 20 times on February 5? Why would we kept that? Why would we reference it? What's there?
The tower and the stuff that gets unlocked when you buy the tower, the stuff that gets unlocked, the chapter 2 versus chapter 3.
Yes, it's about the 7th take we've done, and it's already taken up enough of my day, thank you very much, so I suppose we better do it again. My name's Dean Carter, and like this morning, I am the creative director on Fable, which means I'm doing exactly the same as I was trying to do this morning when you bothered me previously. That means I'm supposed to be talking to the artists at the moment about the monsters, I'm supposed to be talking to the coders about the spells, and I'm meant to be talking to the level designers about the levels, but none of that's happened today, so cheers. That's a very good question. If I were, I would be, if you can make any sense of that.
Okay.
That's all. Yesterday I set up about 6 meetings, which I have cancelled in quick succession, regarding the landscape, which is desperately in need of shrinking and clarification. At the moment the player will get horribly lost, and I think as of Monday morning they will still get horribly lost, and I'm actually blaming that entirely on you and your entire department. What are you implying? See, I knew this would happen with this. When I said I'd agreed to do this, I knew it was a really bloody awful idea. And so I actually came prepared. I reckon that from now on, I'm going to answer things with cards. And you have a choice of yes, no, chicken or fish.
Have you been to a brothel?
No.
Okay, next question. What do you eat?
Had enough. Ella, if the production company calls again, I'm not in, okay? I'm not. Just, no, okay?
This is the first episode of the Lionhead Diary. My name's Peter Molyneux. Let me just explain a little bit about what you'll be seeing. We at the Game Developers Conference recently unveiled one of the 3 big features that are going to feature in Fable 2. And that big feature is the emotions that you will be feeling as you play the game. And so, you feeling loved is really important to us. And that's what a lot of this episode is about.
Love is that warm, fuzzy feeling you get when you realise that somebody cares about you so much they'll forgive you being a complete arse.
Love is very important to me, sort of in my life. I kind of very much like to consider myself a romantic. Love means many things to me. It's family love, erotic love.
What people often do is confuse lust with love.
Love for pizza, love for coffee. God, I love coffee. Because we deal with love every day in our lives, and it's something we recognise and are very sort of intimate with. If it's faked on screen, it can be very jarring. It can be very obvious that it's wrong, and so it's very difficult to get that right. As we get more processing power, the AI will indeed get more sophisticated, and you'll be able to track a lot more variables, you'll be able to do a lot more with it. And so a lot of the ambitions that we had for Fable 1, which we couldn't quite put in, we are bringing back into Fable 2.
Most RPGs are about going off on grand adventures, and Fable's exactly the same in that respect. There's all a very, very big sort of supernatural, exciting, action-orientated storyline. But what we try to do with Fable games is we try to make sure that the player realises that all the things he does out in the world while he's out adventuring have a really, really big impact on the rest of the world and how the rest of the world sees them. So for us, the love and the respect and the fear, all these factors here are altered each time you go away on one of these little missions. And for us that makes it a much, much deeper experience than simply going out, bashing a dragon on the head and going, right, I've got 30-something or other points. We'd like to bring the emotion back into it at all times, and love's going to be a very important part of that.
In Fable 1, we had you do the sexy expressions and stuff, and they like you more. You give them gifts, they like you a bit more. And we've kind of tried to build on that. So there's that aspect of it in Fable 2, but there's a lot more to it as well to try and get someone to fall in love with you. And hopefully we'll get the balance right such that if you find one person, the way they talk to you, it slowly builds, and you can tell you're getting there slowly, and I think they'll sort of maybe want you to take them out as well, rather than just giving them gifts. They might want to go for a nice walk with you. That sort of thing is a thing that we're experimenting with, to try and get the process of them falling in love with you to be more, more real.
What I said at GDC was, I was talking about emotions again, and I was focusing on love, and I was definitely focusing on being loved. And I focused on the dog because I wanted to show the quality that we were putting into the dog in the game. Gamers, casual gamers, everybody who sees that dog, they will say, that's a dog. I understand him. I understand when he's excited, I understand when he's sad, I understand when he's happy, I understand when he's hurt. He looks like a real dog. What we could have done is given you this dog and made him controllable by you. Allow you to send him to places, get him to wait, have him so that you could press a button, he could attack. That would have been the easy thing to do, but no, we've been brave about this. We give you no control over the dog. I don't press a button when I go out with my dog for a walk. I just go out with the dog, and the dog does his thing. And he knows that if I don't like something, he damn well doesn't do it. That's how you control the dog in the game.
If you look at the history of other visual media, cinema, for example, the addition of love and sort of emotive content has been a really big deal. If you look at Charlie Chaplin, he introduced emotion into a film called The Kid, and suddenly cinema was elevated to a new form of art. I'm not quite saying we're there yet, but I'd very much like to think that we're kind of in the vanguard of groups who are interested in this side of games rather than sheer thumb candy.
We give you no control over the dog. Just think about that a second. No control over the dog. You haven't got a dog button. And a lot of people would say, that's just mad, man. How can I be engaged with something? And what we've said is, you control the dog by playing the game. You control the dog by worrying about you as a hero. I think the very fact you don't control him makes him feel real. Makes him feel like something that has a mind and that has an agenda. And that agenda, first and foremost in that agenda, is his love for you. His willingness to sacrifice himself for you. His need to please you in everything that he does.
Product not yet rated.
Welcome to the second episode of the Lionhead Video Diary. My name's Peter Molyneux. This episode's going to be all about combat.
I got into a fight at school and I got my jaw broken. That was pretty nasty.
I came away with all sorts of broken limbs and cuts and gashes and bruises and God knows what.
My worst fight's probably where I just got knocked out by a midget. Well, not necessarily a midget, but he was a very small guy.
Whether we like it or not, there was a lot of combat in Fable 1, and we really wanted to specialise and make something different from Fable 2. So we've looked at a couple of things. One is something that's called one-button combat. Now, a lot of people have said, you can't put combat on one button. What I hope this video diary says to you is that you can.
On Fable 1, we had loads of different ideas about how we wanted to move forward with the combat.
and we always would come up with a new thing, and there'd always be the standard problem of, well, how do we work this into the controls? And it was just so limiting, thinking, well, we've run out of buttons for that. How will the player actually make this happen? And by stripping back to just using one button, it's like, well, it seems the sky's the limit all of a sudden. Anything we can think of, based on the context that it's appropriate, we can do just with a single button press.
The key thing that we've been dealing with one-button combat is ensuring that it is approachable for all gamers. It is approachable for people who haven't played games before, but it's also got the depth that seasoned gamers want. That was one of the key things that we felt we could have done a little better with in Fable 1.
There are fewer things a player can do with his hands, so you have to make sure that of all the enormous varieties of actions that the character can do in the game, you always get the one that is most appropriate for where you want to be. So you almost want the game to read the player's mind and do exactly what he intends to do at that specific time, which, as you can imagine, mind reading is quite a difficult thing to program.
Our goal is not to make combat look realistic, it's to make it believable. We want you to feel like you're in the game, hitting the enemies. I mean, it's not a realistic game. It's got creatures in it, it's got hobs, it's got gigantic trolls, you use magic. We want the combat to all fit together in this world, and we want the world to be believable.
The character in the game, we like to think, is smarter than any character in any game before this, as far as combat's concerned. He always knows where he is, he always knows what's around him, and is going to use all items of the environment that he can to basically cause as much damage to his enemies as possible in the coolest way you can imagine.
If you're close enough to the enemy and you press attack, you get to smack their head off a log, which is great. And then sets it up nicely for a finishing move.
He's going to the loo.
We did loads of research. We looked at videos, we looked at games, we just happened to find people around the studio that had life-sized weapons at home. A little bit disturbing. Not completely real, but there were some life-size metal swords brought in, which it was really useful because we could go out into the car park and video ourselves doing specific moves for the hero. We also got a sword master in called Richard Ryan, who showed us how he would actually fight with a sword. Quite a scary guy. He had a guitar case full of weapons and didn't mind getting quite close to us when he was demonstrating swings and things. But that gave us a lot of ideas, a lot of new ideas. The most important factor in making combat believable is the reaction of the enemy. So when you hit the enemy, if they react in a way that's incredibly satisfying, it's just fantastic.
We're looking at perhaps unlocking certain elements of the combat further along down the storyline, so that instead of having everything available from the start, your character becomes more skilled as the story progresses.
The most exciting introduction to Fable is the flintlock pistol, which comes with a complete design and style of Fable 2, which is a highwayman. And without highwaymen, you have to have guns.
I'm very confident actually that we're going to cover everything that, well, I'll never say everything that a player will want to do, because there's some pretty weird players out there from the mail we get. But I'd say 95% of what people want to do, I think we're going to get in there. Absolutely.
When it comes to combat, nothing beats a good old game of English football. Lionhead challenged fellow Microsoft game studio Rare at a recent match.
The footy against Rare was fantastic. We really want to try and make it a regular thing, really, just a regular drubbing that we can dish out to them.
How's the match going, Wood? It's going pretty good. Are you winning? We are, with 2-0 up front.
And just for the record, who won? Lionhead or Rare?
Lionhead, wasn't it, I think? Yeah, absolutely. Lionhead.
Yes, I am a geek and a Greek.
I would say I'm a hidden geek.
I am a complete geek.
Well, I don't think so. I like to keep up with the latest trends on the high streets.
I suppose I am a bit of a geek. I've had the traditional geek bringing up. I had a chemistry set at the age of 7.
Tim Rance is a very big geek, yeah, but I mean, we can sort of make exceptions for some people.
Attention to all sorts of very obscure technical details that bores everybody stupid.
CTG stands for Central Technology Group, and the purpose of the Central Technology Group is to create reusable technology that can be used by all of the game teams.
If I asked you to build a house and presented you with a big pile of rocks and trees and concrete and so on, the first thing you'd probably ask me for would be the right tools.
The specific advantages of CTG within the company for the games is that they can focus purely on the gameplay. They don't have to worry about writing tools again, writing technology again.
The tools that we create are in use by the Fable team, and they aren't tools that you can just buy off the shelf.
A follow-up project or game will use the same code and tools that we've produced, and they can go straight into making the game and producing cool games for everybody.
Currently I'm working on a spline tool. That means splines are basically curves, so I'm trying to make a tool to help people put things on curves.
Lionhead has been making these tools and games for the past 10 years, and to celebrate our anniversary, a big fancy dress party was planned.
I've taken 2 days off to build my costume, which is Pyramid Head from Silent Hill. I spent so long deliberating whether I should go as the film version, which is a little bit more recognisable, or whether I should be really hardcore and go as the game version, and I kind of bottled out and went for the film version. 4 hours in, and I don't seem to be getting anywhere really, but I might need to go for a little sit down.
One of the things that's a real struggle for game developers is fitting all of those assets into memory and onto the DVDs. What we've done is develop some compression routines that squashes down the data so that it will fit in the available memory, and we've done this with animations which take up huge amounts of memory uncompressed. We've done it with textures, which are the sort of beautiful pictures that go onto the meshes that we create. In an animation, which is basically the movement of a character around the world, we've managed to squeeze those down to just 1% of their original size.
It just helps the pipeline of the content from the people, the creative people, through to the actual game itself.
I told everyone that I was taking some days off to do some charity work. I'll be good. It's going well.
In Lionhead, as we are focused on creating games which cost tens of millions of dollars, sometimes it's great to be able to have a small group of people who can actually spend some time that's not directly on the main game development, and instead can research a bit of blue sky thinking. One example of that is we thought that it'd be very interesting to look at new types of combat. We wanted to experiment with something that really brought the drama out of combat.
Drama is important and vital for combat because it gives it a nice, full-fledged purpose, a motivation for the player.
The whole idea about it is to try and leverage everything that you can to make the combat more exciting without actually changing the combat itself. So we can use a lot of stuff from movies, such as camera work and music, and we can also use everything that we've got in games, like simulation and sound effects and the rumble on the joypad.
Drama is the one thing which will make the difference between just a normal fighting or repetitive fighting mechanics and turn it into an experience, a challenge.
Apart from running out of paint and finding out that this is coming off all over me and my clothes, well, I'm a little bit behind, but I'll just work through the night again.
There's a whole range of things that have gone into Fable 2 to help the production of Fable 2 and the game itself.
The fog adds a certain sense of atmosphere. Pete thought it was a a good idea to actually get a fog machine in. It was quite good fun actually. We put it in a bucket and all of a sudden our bucket was full of mist and we just spent the entire day playing with it. It was great. We used it to get a good sense of how mist moves around and then I believe Peter Molyneux nicked it for his pond at home and he still hasn't returned it.
Strange things are afoot in Peter's garden. And it's not just the mystery of the missing fog machine. Lionhead celebrated its 10th anniversary in style. Pyramid Head was in good company with numerous game celebrities in attendance.
Product not yet rated.
What do I hate most about England? So many things.
Being the very modest and extremely sophisticated Frenchman I am, I would have to say the weather and the food just don't cut it in this country.
I'll refrain, because if people watch this, I'll get hell out there.
What we do is we design all of the places that you get to visit in Fable 2.
We make all the tools that are used for the development of Fable 2.
The way we would design an area, this tends to be slightly different depending on the type of area it is. What we start with is the plan. Then what we do is we actually white box it, and that means we, in a very simple art package, we'll just rough it out, get our scale, make sure all the critical dimensions to ensure that the navigation systems will all work. And we do that fairly quickly in a program called SketchUp. That gives us a rough version of a region, which we can give to the artists, and they can take straight into their art package, and then they can make it look really nice.
This week we're having a bug blitz, which is something we do now and again. The reason for that is that ever so often the build gets a bit clogged up and messy, and we have some reliability problems. So this week we've decided to have everyone sit down and work through some of the bugs.
Unfortunately, Sam, you've come at a really bad time. We've all got major technical issues at the moment and can do no meaningful work. I can pretend to work. I do that all day.
Well, what I did at the start when I was asked to put the art style for the game together is I researched every aspect of the art of the game and made sure it was consistent with the design vision for the game. When we were doing the environments, what you've got to do is split up the environment team into architectural and organic for a start. There's definitely people that are more organic than others. Quite a few hippies on the team.
Well, currently one of the tasks I'm involved in with Fable 2 is foliage, and that basically means creating all of the green stuff that you see within the game. Any of the flowers, any of the bushes, I have some part in producing, essentially.
I think the distinguishing thing about the world of Fable is that there's an introduction of colour. If you look at most next generation games at the moment, though they're beautifully crafted, they seem to be awash with, well, grey.
The foliage and the local detail, as we call it in Fable 2, is very much more detailed. We're trying to go for a lot more on every front, really. So we've got a lot more different kinds, we've got a lot more different feels, and we've expanded the foliage as much as we could.
Well, you know, I work with mainly artistic people, and let's face it, they're never going to be satisfied unless they have one big red button that builds the whole game. So I'd say they are reasonably satisfied, but they're not happy.
I'm debugging the particle system and why at the moment the particles are really big and fat and ugly and they don't die out. So right now that's what I'm doing.
We do have fast travel now, and even just travelling on foot is different in Albion now. In the first game, the world looked amazing, but it was kind of frustrating because you couldn't go everywhere you wanted to go. Those restrictions have been taken away now. You can go everywhere now.
I'm fixing bugs at the moment. Some rather nasty grouping bugs in the editor, which I'm taking some serious investigation.
What we have here, we can see that this is the last month. The blue bars show us what's been fixed, and the red ones, all the bugs that have gone in. So the last 2 days we've had a peak there, which is good, which means people are fixing things.
The setting for the game, now that it's 500 years on, the idea was that we wanted to incorporate clockwork and get away from the medieval times and more into the age of highwaymen. It's always good to keep people on their toes when they're making the game. If you do the same thing again, it can dry up. We just want to keep everybody on their toes, especially the public as well.
Well, for instance, we want our regions to be very dynamic. So it means some quests will show you a region with certain modifications, and we also want to have seasons in there.
When we looked at inspirations for the game, we tended actually not to look at games and more to do with beautiful looking films, beautiful forest scenes. I mean, you've got all the martial art films that came out with a hero and what have you, with the swirling leaves going around the characters and all that kind of stuff. The thing with Fable 1 is that we literally had no idea how this game was going to be taken by the public, you know, whether anybody would actually like it. And this time we've got a better idea due to how people responded to Fable 1, so that when we're making Fable 2 we can take the best aspects of it and carry them on and fix the worst aspects and hopefully live up to everybody's expectations.
Product not yet rated.
I suppose I'd have to say that I'd want to do that with my boyfriend.
Who would I like to most snuggle up to on the couch to play Fable 2 co-op? I'd have to say my wife.
Oh God, who do I know who wants to play games?
Or girlfriend.
My name's Louise Copley. I'm the executive producer for the Fable 2 team.
My name's Neil Griffiths. I am the multiplayer programmer on Fable 2.
My name's Alan Wright. My role on Fable 2 is as a coder, and I've been assigned the task of implementing the spells. The magic system in Fable 2 is similar to Fable 1 in you get a range of spells for you to choose when to cast. We've got the good old-fashioned staples, like there's a fire-based spell, there's a lightning-based spell. We've effectively done away with a spell menu so that the longer you hold the button, one of a number of spells can be chosen that you've already pre-set up. For every type of spell, there's two versions of it. There's an area effect, which is where it affects enemies based around your current location in a radial form, or there's a targeted cast, and it all depends on whether you actually point the left joystick at a target or not. I think my favourite spell currently is the lightning spell. As the enemy is being electrocuted, occasionally he'll flash in and out of a skeleton model in good old-fashioned cartoon style.
At the Game Developers Conference in San Francisco, Peter Molyneux took to the stage during the Microsoft keynote speech.
So I come out and say we talk about Fable 2 features. When I say that line, then we start off with the first pub game demo.
It's exciting. It's a big empty room. Somehow that's more comfortable than a big full room.
That's what we want. You're going to make the Lionhead Bugs video.
I'm about to defend freedom. Where's my dog? I want my dog.
Yeah.
Fable 2 needs like 10% more dog and I'll be happy.
In front of an excited audience, Peter Molyneux announced and showed a big new feature of Fable 2, namely offline multiplayer, or the chance to play co-op with someone else.
For me, couch co-op is so important because playing games alone these days, it's not the same as it was. You don't just lock yourself in a room anymore. Playing with someone, like going to a museum with someone, or walking around the town with someone, or going to see the cinema with someone, is experiencing something together.
Couch co-op works where second person picks up the second controller, they're going to hit start. They can select what character they want to play, which is based around the hero, although if you want to, you can choose someone completely opposed to that.
I think it just changes the whole experience because you're involving someone else and you've got companions on your adventure, which I think really adds to the depth of the experience.
It's all about making you feel more of the drama. Now, saying that, the problem that always comes is getting two people in the room together at the same time all the time. And that's what I love about Fable 2, is that if your friend's not around, you can still carry on playing. As soon as they walk in the room, you throw them a controller and you carry on playing.
The hero will choose how much to split certain things, such as gold, experience, so on, with the second person. The second person can then take that shared experience, gold, back to their game, and so they're always increasing their own hero back in their own world.
I don't like working for other people, generally, unless I'm paid very well. So I will be the henchman, but you have to give me more than 95% of all the gold earned. It's that simple.
Oh Lord, what would I do if I was a woman for a day? I would go shopping for chocolate shoes.
I'd probably take that little pink floral dress I've got in my wardrobe and wear that without fear of getting caught.
Well, ignoring the obvious spending all day in the shower type answer.
I think at the moment I would help breastfeed my new baby little girl. 4 boobs are better than 2.
I think I'd probably get a map and get in the car and see if it really is that hard to find out where the hell you are.
Well, I wouldn't be pregnant, that's for sure, because that's pretty horrendous.
I think if I were a woman for a day, I would probably just enjoy the luxury of having some hair.
A good piece of concept art should take a basic idea that you've been given and imbue it with all the
atmosphere possible. My favourite concept art that I've done has been generally the villagers and the creatures in Fable 2, especially the villager work that I've done. I hope I can see my influence in the style of the people in Fable, the style of the creatures. I hope that there's a little bit of darkness and a little bit of weirdness in there that's me.
Fitting the world and the characters together is really best handled at the concept stage to make sure that everybody's on board with the general idea.
The art in Fable 2 obviously has a large technical kind of component to it. The most important thing is not to let the technology stand in the way of our artists.
We do have a pipeline basically where artists will create a character and then they will pass it on to our technical animator Emilio, who will then rig the model, which is basically giving the shell a skeleton inside so we can move it and create our animations with it.
At the moment I'm just doing some polishing to the male hero's skin. So I'm rendering out from ZBrush skin materials on a high-res mesh.
We have a dynamic time of day, and when you start looking at the current generation of consoles and the type of complicated pre-computed lighting that we have to do to make the world feel, really kind of alive, to do that with a dynamic time of day is actually, quite a tricky job. So that's one of the things we do. Also, we allow you to walk from outside straight into a house, pretty much any house in the game. Coping with the lighting and just the sheer amounts of memory it takes to store all of this stuff is really kind of complicated. So there are a lot of key kind of technology choices that really bring the Fable world to life. I think there's a few things that we do that other games don't do. For a start, our morphing hero is definitely something that other games really don't do. There's a lot of emphasis in other games of customizing your hero, but having a hero evolve dynamically as you play the game is a real challenge for us. The morphs in Fable 2, are they going to be as extreme as we've hinted at? Yeah, they really are. I mean, we had this technology in Fable 1. We've got grand visions, as anybody who's ever listened to Peter will know.
All of the classic morphs from Fable 1 are back, really. So we've got all the strength, the fat ones, the thin ones. We've also got the good and evil ones there, but this time there's kind of another added dimension to it. In Fable 2, we've kind of said, well, that's all very important and interesting and whatever else, but we haven't really measured what you're like as a social individual. We haven't looked to see whether you're, I don't know, are you a gambler? We kind of looked at all the things that people were asking, sort of things like university purity tests. Have you ever kissed anybody? And we're kind of measuring those things throughout the game this time. And our hope is that we'll be able to bring those into the good and evil morphs and add a little bit more depth, so you don't kind of get the same, I'm evil, I look this way. This time it'll be, I'm evil, I look this way, and you can also tell what I'm like with other people as well.
We've still got tattoos, we've got makeup this time round, and obviously the bank of clothing and outfits is far larger than in Fable 1. So all that is customisable, interchangeable. So if you want to wear your chicken hat with your corset and your high boots, you can.
You can make the hero look as cool as you want, or you can make them look, a complete fool, the real clown around town.
What we want to do this time is make sure that you feel the terror of impending death, but this time kind of take the sting out of the risk by saying, okay, we're not going to rewind the game for you. You will lose something, you will lose some experience, but we're not going to force you to play that bit of the game again, because you're obviously having some difficulty with it. So what we're going to do instead is take the experience from the environment around you and use that for your kind of your one last heroic struggle. You'll rise up, kind of burst up with energy, and everybody will go flying, and the music will swell, and you'll feel very heroic for that moment.
I am the audio director at Lionhead. I've been working in audio for about 15 years. I started working at Bullfrog with Peter, and some of the games you might know are things like Syndicate, which is the first game I ever worked on, Theme Park, Magic Carpet, Dungeon Keeper, going through to Lionhead then, which was black and white, things like the movies, and Fable, of course. Most of it was recorded with sketch samples, first of all, which we then converted into scores, and the scores were then given to an orchestrator, and the orchestrator then makes those orchestra friendly, and we went over to Bratislava and recorded it all with the Slovak National Symphony Orchestra at the National Radio Hall there, the concert hall. My goal with music has always been just to add colour to the game. Music should be there as something which is a backdrop to what you're looking at, so that it makes you feel like you're part of that world. When you're in the castle, you want to feel like you're in somewhere regal and grand, so that's why we used the orchestra as like a chamber piece. My involvement with the ambient sound effects, with the team we have here, I designed a system whereby we could paint ambient layers onto the actual Fable maps, so that as you're running through a forest, for instance, we painted down a forest theme, and the blending from one ambience to another is quite important. So the technology was laid down first of all.
The ambient sound has progressed quite a long way. In Fable 1 we were able to place sounds down on a map, say here is a river, here is a set of trees, this sort of thing, but it was always sort of constrained by the amount of CPU power and memory. So we went back to the drawing board and we found ways of expanding the systems available to the sound designer, the tools, the processes, so we can now take things like, I don't know, say there's a tower over in the distance, we can actually factor that in. So if you want a distant hum that controls that, it's easy enough to actually place that in. The sound designer has that level of control, whereas in Fable 1 we couldn't have done that.
Now, in terms of the actual sound design, I obviously have the directorial sort of influence as to what regions should sound like. But on the whole, I've given the actual placement of those sounds and the design of those sounds to Sound Lab in the States, who are Microsoft's own sound department.
My boss, Guy Whitmore. I'm Christopher Malroth.
Hello.
Director of audio for MGS. And I am the sound design supervisor on this title.
New title, we just made it up. Sound design supervisor.
Interrupt by self, true. Interrupt by group, true.
That's how we make sound effects, we just kind of...
This entire game was done with mouth noises.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Guy did all of the swords.
King Christopher did the bell ring.
RAR, but actually we pitched it down so it actually sounds cooler. It sounds more like this. There are 9,000.
9,000 sound effects.
9,000 unique sound effects that go into the sound design for Fable 2.
In 90 meg?
Yeah.
That's outrageous.
We fit it in 90
That's
megs.
unbelievable.
We just finished the final mix. It's a Friday. No, it's a Friday at.
It is now Friday.
Yeah, it's Friday. At 12:05 a.m. We just finished the final mix. We hope that everyone is going to enjoy it.
In addition to the music and sound effects, recording of the dialogue is another important factor that needs to be taken into account.
Right behind me you can see Studio Number 1 here at Side Studios in London, where we're just right now at the moment recording the Theresa character.
Hello, young man. I couldn't resist it, I'm sorry.
An unusual element in the average video game.
Your appearance is beginning to change to reflect your actions.
So long as your heart continues to beat, all that I require of you is obedience.
Well, hello there. Oh, always a nice surprise to have company. I don't get many visitors to my little coastal paradise. Especially ones who might well redefine a man's concept of paradise.
What's that?
Nothing to worry about.
Oh, yuck. Well, I hear that's lucky. Like finding a four-leaf clover.
Why did you do that?
I've never seen someone use will before. Oh, good one.
Why did you do that?
During the last days of development, only a few bugs are keeping the game from being finished. These are desperate and yet exciting times.
We've got too many. We had 14 yesterday, 14 bugs. We came back in this morning and now we had 85.
6.
Now we're on 6, according to Jeremy. Might be 56 though.
Take off the 6.
Take the 5 off.
Done.
Make it
51
stop,
bugs.
Sam. Make it stop.
Yesterday we got down to 14 and today we have 51.
When all the bugs have been cleared, the game is considered to be finished. This is referred to in the industry as going gold.
We've got gold!
No, we haven't, not yet.
Ooh, gold.
Sorry to be the bringer of bad news, but there's a patch today. Nobody's had a chance to sleep in 6 months, George.
We are writing personal thank you notes to all of the team and we're giving them a hamper to thank them for all the extra hard work that they have been doing for the last few months.
I have to say, playing the complete game is a great experience. I love it, and the ending just made me cry. What? It made me weep.
How did I feel when Fable 2 went gold? It was kind of very anticlimactic because we were right in the middle of doing the live patch. You wanted to have closure. Yes, it's in the box, it's in the disc, but then on the other hand, we really want to get this out for day one. We really wanted to push for that, and it took so much effort, but I'm so pleased we managed it. And that was the point where I kind of felt, yes, finally done, yes. And then we started working on downloadable content.
Never stops.
Never stops.
As soon as Fable went gold, we were on DLC.
DLC is something, you know, we want to do it for the people who like the game. We want to give more content. There were a lot of things we wanted to do in the original, but for whatever reason, you know, time or just because they didn't quite fit, we didn't get a chance to. So we've tried to sort of keep all those ideas on a list and then, you know, make sure that we get to them in DLC. It's a fantastic opportunity to do stuff that you didn't get an opportunity to do in the original game.
Knothole Island is a place where the people from Knothole Glade from Fable 1 went to for their various reasons.
Knothole Island is an island off the coast of Albion that sort of is separate from the mainland and existed in the first game as well.
Knothole Island is a magical island off the coast of Albion where Hera has to go and complete some quests to help the folk who are having a bit of trouble with their weather. If you've completed most of the game, you can probably do the whole of Knothole Island, but if you're only halfway through, you'll only be able to do up to certain points in the island.
This island is ruled by magical totems that will change the seasons on the island.
You get to Knothole Island via submarine. Gordon, who's a resident of Knothole Island, he's the one who's sent out to, you know, to find a hero, and he comes to Bowerstone Market in a submarine he's built, and he's the one who takes you to Knothole Island.
There's going to be things on the island that you can't get anywhere else in Albion.
There's a woman called Jessica who runs the mystery shop, the Box of Secrets. She's quite a unique shop. She's quite an interesting character you'll get to know as you play Not Whole Island.
She's got a face like a badger's backside. I like her.
Why are you filming my blue?
There's lots to do. It's not just a couple of outfits and a couple of swords. This is a proper downloadable content where you've got a proper existing level with lots to do and lots to see.
You can only earn the achievements and only see the new content. Well, you can see the new content as a henchman, of course, but you can only kind of get the true experience of it if you have the premium yourself, and only earn the new achievements that we've added as well.
There are weapons, there are potions, there are specialist shops on the island where you can do particular things which are unique to Not Whole Island without giving too much away. You know, if you've got your character a bit fat, then maybe they can take a potion and reduce that fatness.
We've got armour, which was missing from Fable 2. We had in Fable 1, of course. And one of the nice things about the armour in Fable 2 is that it kind of, I'll just say that you might want to look at it when you're evil and look at it when you're good.
And there's a really cool piece of armour which you can collect bit by bit in the dungeons, which will satisfy those needs for those people who like to wrap themselves in tin.
And are there any surprises within the DLC?
Yes, they are, but they wouldn't be surprises if I told you all that.
You might not want to capture that, because this is completely empty.
We've been working on seeing the future, and I don't mean any psychic seeing the future with the next DLC 2 pack.
Basically, we got together and brainstormed, and then we gave them ideas to the lead designers, and they put that through a shredder, and we pieced together what was left.
We started with DLC 2 right after we finished Not Whole Island, so we didn't have quite a break there.
DLC 2, Seeing the Future, is, like its name states, about the hero's future in Albion.
So we've added story because we wanted to kind of gel things together, and that came from Peter. He's kind of said that he wanted a story.
Murgo's back, and he's got some few new interesting items for you. Unfortunately, all of them are as cursed as the music box, so you end up being taken into various different worlds.
The DLC intro. It's a bit of a spoiler if we show it.
Yes, Teresa makes a comeback in a DLC. Well, she never really left. She's always been around. So yeah, she's behind the scenes still.
She's a very intriguing character. She comes across sometimes a bit dark, but then she's also very good. So that intrigue certainly carries across to DLC 2. You know, what is her purpose? What does she want from the hero?
A very well-known character has something to show you.
People can expect lots of weird and wacky things in DLC 2. From necromancers to crazy ghost hobs. Your dog, for instance, can now be transformed.
Lots of people love the dog. Everyone loves the dog. He's fantastic. So we decided, what if people want to change their dog? So there's 3 new variants of the dog. People said, you know, I'd like a different dog. So yeah, have the Dalmatian. There, have the Husky. It's great.
We had some ideas that we wanted to do
and we knew where we wanted to go with it, but we've tried to appease some of the more hardcore Fable players and make them happy, because they're special.
For those that have played Fable 1, they'll recognise, hopefully, Oakvale from that. It's nice to go back to Fable 1. For a lot of the team that have worked on it in the past, it's always like a trip down memory lane, and it's nice to be able to bring that creativity back, and hopefully people will recognise parts, because Wraithmarsh from Fable 2 was Oakvale from Fable 1, but now you're able to see it as it was in between Fable 1 and Fable 2. Well, the new achievements, we wanted to use the full 250 points this time. There's a couple for like secret things, and there's one for completing the core story, but we really wanted them to have a little bit of fun to them as well, so they're more like the Fable 2 retail ones than the DLC 1 achievements.
The last thing you do on DLC 2, or the last thing you gain in DLC 2, is a key to a place where you can go and fight countless battles.
The Colosseum is definitely one of the most challenging aspects of DLC 2. People said they wanted something just so challenging and difficult. They'd really have to take their time to be a high-level hero. So the Colosseum is balanced around a high-level hero, and it's difficult. I mean, it's still fun, but if you want to be the best in the Colosseum, if you want to get the ultimate prize, as it's called, you'll have to be pretty good at it.
The Necromancer, one of the particular quests, we wanted you to have a pretty epic fight with him. I mean, a lot of the boss characters in Fable 2, most players didn't really have much trouble with it. The Necromancer should give people a bit of a challenge.